hard not and tutorial, you got it. But if you thought the Act 1 boss was rough, well, today we're going to be talking about how you can beat the Act 2 boss, this amazing looking Ronin that is totally not doing anything sus with his right hand. We're going to be talking about his combos, what you can do about it, then tips on how to beat him, as well as combos that are just too godly. So first things first, to talk about the Ronin, you have two things that you need to be aware of. One of those things is that he has these quick fire off attacks that will nuke you, basically coming in the form of like rock magic. He'll stomp the ground, throw a spike of rocks in front of him. That one's pretty telegraphed. You just look at his leg and he'll start to wind up and he'll smash down. Just teleport as soon as you can do that. Just start spamming teleport and you'll dodge it easily. The second thing he has is this massive jump into the air and then comes crashing down. In fact, the boss tip actually tells you about this one. Now, the reason why they tell you about this one is because it happens so fast. There's very little telegraphed anything. This is why in this boss fight, you should constantly be dodging always. You're going to be doing that anyway when you get to Act 2. The second thing you need to know about is when you get to the Act 2 of his boss fight or when you take down his first health bar. This boss, when you take down his first health bar, goes into the beloved and totally not cringe, and I'm mad at the designers for doing it, immunity phase. This is agonizing and so frustrating. Please, Hellsweeper, change this. There's nothing worse in any video game that has bosses than immunity phases. It is the most disabling and frustrating thing you can do. You're basically like, oh, you know how you're doing damage? Yeah, nah, idiot. Feel dumb while you just sit there helplessly, meanwhile you're eviscerating the world. Sorry about that, okay. Essentially, he takes off his helmet and goes full-on zombie mode, as well as some sort of weird ninjutsu nonsense where he's a shadow man running at you. He will proceed to basically teleport directly on top of you and start throwing bombs. This phase is where you are going to need to implement the survival mode that we talked about in the last boss fight. You should have attack mode and then survival mode. This fight, you should be existing in survival mode constantly. The reason why is because you can't deal damage. You can only deal damage to his first health bar, and then he's basically like, all right, my time, and then he'll just start charging the ever-living hell out of you. Now, there are things you can do to make this really easy and this not really matter, as that goes for almost all the boss fights, which we'll talk about. Anyways, now, if this boss only had an immunity phase, then it would just be, hey, sit back, relax, let him vent, and it'll be fine. Sometimes he lets you do that. Sometimes if you get massive distance, he'll let you take a breather. He won't aggro so much on you. But then other times, he is glued to you throwing all kinds of fists. And at that point, you just need to do circles around the map. So to clarify, you can deal damage to the boss and we'll talk about how to evade him. But as soon as you take down his first health bar, he becomes immune. In this immune state, try to get as much distance as you possibly can away from him. All right, this will just help you in the long run. He could still have the chance of just teleporting and punching the shit out of you. So be ready, keep your eye on him, be ready to just do massive amounts of teleports, more than you ever thought you needed to do. Spam it, like forward, the taunt. Like, I'm not talking about a little bit, just to get away from him, keep going. You need to keep teleporting because he is going to be magnetized on top of you. In fact, if you want to look behind your shoulder, he is literally just glued to you. He'll, like, each time you teleport, he's right on that last spot. So you need to spam it and just go in circles, and eventually he'll chill. And that is where he starts getting kind of dizzy because his berserk mode finally starts ending, and that is when you can deal a boatload of damage. And that's the thing you need to oscillate between. Try to be in the survival mode as much as you possibly can and get distance as much as you possibly can. We're going to be talking about builds now in which you can leverage a mass advantage against this thing. The first thing being, the first tip to actually succeed in this boss fight is actually using one of the second skills that you acquire, the dog. The dog is one of the most broken things in this entire game. He is amazing, fantastic, if you build him for HP scaling and only HP really. So what that means is whenever you see the dog option pop up, you invest in HP. Give him HP and then another HP, and then both of those HPs can be converted and combined into one perk, not two, giving you more space to put more perks in, but the perk that it will give you is the ability for you to recover and regenerate health. This is amazing. But the reason why, squeak the toy by hitting the trigger and your dog will basically appear on top of you. So if you can know what we're doing here, we're basically teleporting like crazy while squeaking the shit out of the toy, making it so that your dog is constantly near you and you're ultimately safe because you're getting distance and you're basically just constantly traveling faster and faster. Do this whenever you start to get a little dicey. Whenever you start to get low health, call your dog, start teleporting fast. You need to have at least one BFF perk for your dog in order to instantly pick him up off of the ground. So your dog will basically go down constantly because so many enemies have varying damage output. So they'll just nuke him in a minute. But it's fine because if you have one BFF, you can revive him in a split second, which is amazing because it always lets you basically keep your dog as an aggro machine as well as allowing him to heal you completely, which is amazing. And if you ever get the dog thing to drop, even if you didn't want it, you are always benefiting from it. Always put it into health so your dog's even more tanky, combine those to get even more regeneration so that you can tank some of the nonsense attacks that exist in this game. Okay, good. So now you can basically survive the boss fight. If you make any mistakes, you can quickly teleport away and cast your dog. And if you keep doing that, your whole health will be completely full again. You get that at level 2, by the way. So that will massively help you as far as just sustain and survivability. And it's pretty easy to get the dog. It's in the same vein as magic, and I'll talk about how I seem to get a lot of the magics that I deeply want. The second tip I have for you is to use laser beam. This is a tricky one because essentially you need both fire and ice, and then you combine both of those magics while they're in your hand, and that will combine into a purple, which is a laser beam. This is a high damage. It's almost a meme in the community at this point. It does so much damage, it immediately teleports and does damage to your target, so there's no downtime or like latency in hitting your target, which is great. But the main thing I don't think people are talking about is the fact that it's so easy to level up because you only need ice and fire, and the more you level up ice and fire, and you usually are able to get at least one of those to drop within an encounter with the chests and the drop of the hand, basically just increases the chance of you leveling up one or the other, which therefore will increase the damage output that you have instead of being kind of screwed over by you keep getting guns or something. This can increase the percentage chance that you actually are leveling up the damage type that you want to use. So it is extremely good. Only caveat I would give is try to go into the encounter with fire because fire is significantly more deadly. Ice is kind of a weird mixed bag, but it has a massive use case for the very last boss, the Act 3 boss. Now the unfortunate aspect of this is you do not get ice until a little bit later on. I think it's around level 5. It's on screen right now. You get ice at this time right here. Boom. But as soon as you get that, you can rumble. You can nuke up damn near every boss and make it to the very end of the game whilst blitzkrieging everybody. So with that being said, those two elements, the doggo and the laser build, make easy work of this boss. Now, there is one other thing that I will mention that I think is extremely good, and it's actually surprising, but it's Pulse. Pulse is essentially this like sonic boom. Maybe it's not called Pulse. It's the thing I'm showing you guys right now. It's a sonic pulse, this little pop. This little bass drop, I always call it. But essentially, if you get that thing, it's just an amazing perk that stuns enemies constantly, so you're just always benefiting from basically keeping enemies not dealing damage to you, which is nice. But for whatever reason, when I was using this against the boss, it stuns him in a way that makes him look for a different aggro source. And regardless, I just noticed that he ended up fighting my dog a lot of the time when I was using this. So Pulse can be very good if you fully send that into damage, but that can go for kind of anything, man. So my kind of third tip as far as like builds and points of leverage is just to massively level up the one thing that you're aiming for. Now then the question becomes, well, how could I do that when it's RNG based? It's a roguelike. What if I don't keep getting the things I want? Well, that leads us to the kind of fourth tip, or the kind of conglomerate of information that is super important but extremely hard to kind of mention. How the hell do I get the items that I actually want to use? And this brings us to the community debate right now, which people are data mining and trying to figure out, but you're gonna have to listen to my chaos and madness in order to actually come out on top, okay? Let's talk about keys. Your priority should always be to use jade keys and platinum keys. Basically, the green key, it's kind of obvious, and the bluish silver key, kind of like bluish key. These two, in my opinion, have had the highest hit rate. It's almost like it's a 30% chance increase for you to get +2 into whatever you're investing in. I've also noticed that jade seems to massively lean towards magic. And then the third thing that you should be on the lookout for to use is true gold. I'm gonna call it that because there's like fake gold, which looks kind of like it's like copper almost, but they look very similar. True gold, you can tell. It's like a bright yellowy orange that's super easy to note. The lighting in this game is a nightmare hell, and I hope they fucking just this is like a mod that I could download that just makes the keys glow, whatever color they are. That'd be great. Devs, please. Anyways, the things you're gonna wanna look out for to not really use is like silvers, which I think are lean towards melee and guns. So if you wanted to use platinum and silver, I think you'd have a high probability of getting guns and things like that. But honestly, the main thing you need to focus on is using green keys, using platinum keys, and then using true gold. Those are the 3 things you're gonna wanna look at. True gold being the most fucking pain in your ass nonsense bullshit because it's so hard to see which the real color is. I'm not colorblind, but the lighting is shit. So with that combo of always using jade and always using platinum, I found that I've oftentimes got a lot of magic abilities. Now this does not ensure that you're gonna get magic all the time, but it increases the percentage chance that you get magic to drop, as well as whatever you get to drop being ×2. By ×2, I mean you get 2 level ups of an item, which is huge. That's 2 levels that you could have cleared, but instead you're getting it in a chest, and you can get that back to back if you get lucky enough, which can be crazy as far as your progression and nuking down a boss goes. And ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of it. One thing that is really evident in this game is the more you progress, the more you level up, the more you get access to new weapons, new perks, new blessings that could massively give you an advantage. But these are the things, the 3 pillars that I think you could constantly do and honestly pick to have and be able to succeed regardless of what you choose. There was a lot of runs where I was trying to get today's footage to use and show you guys where I just kept getting kicked in the chest. It's bad. I kept getting terrible drop, didn't have any mana fighting the boss, didn't have any damage, just a really bad run where I just kept getting like weird HP a little bit and like a bunch of other random crap. Some runs be like that, but with my knowledge of using the keys that I did, as well as the laser, because I could basically double up and always be progressing usually in one of the ice or fire avenues, I was able to succeed. And the fact that I knew I needed to get basically 1 perk of BFF for the dog to just give you incredible sustain, those points of leverage, which you can almost always have, the keys and then just the dog, because just keep the dog in rotation. You can get it from a chest. You only need to get the dog 3 times, and then you're just basically crazy set for having a complete variable that just does damage and aggroes people and also heals you, and you can also instantly revive them if you have 1 perk of BFF. It's just crazy. But alas, my friends, if you thought this boss was a cheeky wanker, well, oh, the 3rd boss. What a fucking nightmare. Okay. Hope you guys support that video too, and I'll see you in hell, my dear friends. But if you want to see more content, we cover mods on this channel. We'll definitely cover upcoming VR games because I love VR to pieces. And if you want more of my madness, we stream over at GRINN, link in the description as well as in the pinned comment. Love you to bits. Let me know if there's anything that I missed or any guides or weapon showcases that you want to see. Do be sure to tell everyone and be a lovely member of the community. I appreciate that immensely, and I'm sure they do too. My name is GRINN. I hope I can see you again, and goodbye.